Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel of Pitchside Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP, and we're coming to you straight after the draw between Fulham and Liverpool. One all preceded by, of course, another draw, the same result between Crystal Palace and Tottenham at the Selhurst Park. Quite similar to games in the fashion, really, in the result at least, but of course the plot is very different in both games. Let's start talking about the Fulham-Liverpool game that just concluded first. Liverpool were really absent. They were really horrible for the first 30 to 35 minutes, really not showing any sort of life. Fulham had 4 attempts on target in those 35 minutes. Liverpool only had 1 attempt on target, and Fulham were all over Liverpool at certain points. They really took advantage of some of the mistakes they had and the spaces behind, specifically Andy Robertson on the left hand side. On one ball, capitalising on the second ball, Fulham scored the first goal of the game in 25 minutes with Bobby Reid. It was a brilliant strike, of course. Before that, there was 2 big chances for Fulham that were saved by returning Alisson Becker, who had his work cut out for him on his return. Really, he had a lot to do in that first half against a Fulham side that were really lively, probably capitalising on the return of fans to Craven Cottage as well. Liverpool, as I mentioned, didn't have a lot to do in that first half. They didn't have anything to do pretty much in that first half. They were really horrible. Their defence made a lot of silly mistakes that could have been avoided, certainly. Matip was injured, of course. He was substituted in half-time by Minamino. That's another injury added to the long list of casualties for Liverpool this season. They're really unlucky, specifically on that defensive department. Really, the injuries are just racking up. In the second half, they dominated. They were a little bit better on the ball. They possessed. They had more chances, more danger to them than the first half. Fulham, they stood strong, really. Their defence stood strong. They couldn't allow them any space. They chose to play the 5-4-1, obviously, to close down their defence and really not allow Liverpool any kind of real danger. Liverpool mostly tried to play on crosses. Late on in the second half, they decided to change their style, try to be more in-depth, really. Still, they didn't create a lot of big chances, really. They had certain situations, but definitely didn't have any kind of big, decisive moments, that is. Aside from the penalty at the 77th minute, Mo Salah scoring his 10th goal this season, his 5th penalty, grabbing the equaliser for Liverpool. From then on, it was survival mode for Fulham, really, as their physical status dropped. Really, they lost a lot of stamina in that second half, running behind the ball, giving Liverpool the possession, trying to defend. Really, it really exhausts teams to do that, and Fulham certainly make up for it. They survived. They saw the game through against the Liverpool side that couldn't be effective enough to capitalise on certain situations that they had. Curtis Jones had a brilliant attempt at the 83rd minute. He did everything possible in football aside from having a proper finish that could see them scoring the second goal. Important point for Fulham, really. They found themselves in a better place somehow, relatively to what they had earlier this season. I mean, they couldn't get a point for their lives early on. They only, won against West Bromwich and drawn against Sheffield United, and now, in the space of 3 weeks, they find themselves defeating Leicester City away from home and grabbing an important win against Liverpool at home. Liverpool still on 25 points, joint top though with Tottenham, the side who earlier on before that game, of course, drew away at Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park 1-1. This was, I think, the reverse plot to the Liverpool game in a way. Tottenham went, ahead in the game in 23 minutes. Harry Kane, again, from a Son assist. It was a smart shot from Harry Kane, really, from outside the box, tricking Vicente Guaita and completely, wrong-footing him and going into the net for a 1-0 lead for Tottenham. They not dominated, really. They had the better opportunities in the first half, certainly in the start of the second half, before Crystal Palace starting to get more into the game, pressurised Tottenham's defence as they continue to somehow, crawl back into their defence in the second half. They do that usually, really. This season, it seems they don't know what to do sometimes when they have possession in their hands. In the 81st minute, the equaliser from Jeffrey Schlupp sealed the deal for Crystal Palace. They could have won. They had proper chances to add the second goal, but eventually it was 1-1 between Crystal Palace and Tottenham. Now, with both these results, of course, the next game between Liverpool and Tottenham at Anfield would be a crucial encounter for both these sides. Maybe we will see, a decider, not a title decider, but we'll see how this race is going to shape probably in this game. Could Tottenham lead this race? Will Liverpool be the ones to lead the race? We will know that on Wednesday night, of course. Until then, Liverpool, a middling display in the first half against Fulham, better in the second half, but still they won't really accept a point away from home. Another bad performance away from home this season. 4 match winless run away from home since the game against Chelsea. They lost against Aston Villa, of course, 7-2, and then they had 3 other draws away from home as well. So they will take this point for what it matters, but they certainly wouldn't accept having only that point from a game where they normally do not struggle really against Fulham. As for Tottenham, this was, I think, an anomaly really, and again, I don't think that this is a game that would suit them. I talked a lot about if Tottenham can hold on to the same format of defending and staying in the back and just playing on the counter and using only Son, Kane practically up front. We'll see in the Liverpool game. It's going to be a testy one. Probably this is going to be the game that suits Mourinho the most, because you expect Liverpool to be the dominant team and you expect Tottenham to sit at the back. We'll wait and see what's going to happen on Wednesday night at Anfield. That's all for quick reaction post those games. Both Liverpool drawing away to Fulham 1-1 and the Crystal Palace Tottenham game the same result as well. In the end, I remind you to like, comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications to receive the updates from this channel, similar videos, and the podcast as well. Listen on Spotify to the podcast, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. We're going to be talking more about those games in the episode, and follow us on social media, PSP on Twitter, Pitchside on Instagram. Until I see you in the next video, I was your host, the HOD of the PSP, and goodbye.